Andres Nájera is a seasoned professional with over 10 years of experience in go-to-market strategies and sales, specializing in helping early-stage B2B startups transform disorganized sales efforts into scalable, repeatable systems that drive sustainable growth without burning capital. He has helped over 100 startups, 200 mentees, and has given conferences for more than 1,600 attendees. His expertise lies in crafting actionable sales playbooks, implementing key tools, and optimizing metrics to accelerate deal closures and improve revenue predictability. With a deep understanding of the fast-paced startup environment, Andres designs tailored strategies that align with each business's unique needs, empowering founders to unlock their full growth potential. So, listeners, please help me welcome Andres to the show. Hi, Andres. How are you? Thank you for coming on to the Latinx Business Show.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here, Randy. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. I know you're super busy, so we'll get right into the questions because I have a lot for you right today. But yeah, let's get into it. What's your preferred pronoun? Like, what do we go by during the?
Yeah, like he, him. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then, who is Andres? Tell me who you are, where you're from, what are your origins. I think this is really important because we want to know your background, and just let us know, where you come
Yeah,
from.
that's a really good question, Randy. Like I think that's a very common question in the world, right? Who is Andres Nájera? I define myself as someone that's extremely driven to help entrepreneurs increase their freedom through revenue. That's like the professional side. But on the other side,
Yeah.
I'm someone that really appreciates spending time with family, doing hikes, going around in different countries and traveling, like trying to expand myself and trying to grow as much as I can. I was born and raised in Mexico, okay, so
Okay.
that's something that I really love. But also, I was born and raised in a very small town, 1 hour away from Mexico City. There, it was a very local community and everyone knew each other, but I just wanted to see what happened in the world, right? So when I was about 18, I started traveling, around different countries and different cultures and different traditions. I just loved it. And then I was able to live in the US for a bit, then live in France, then live in China,
Wow,
currently
nice.
living in Amsterdam, right? So I think the definition is like, first of all, I'm someone extremely driven to learn, help, coach, mentor, people that are in need in business to increase
Yeah.
sales. And on the other side, just like a very passionate traveler and enjoy as much as I can every moment that we have in life, no?
Nice. Okay, I like that
Yeah.
interpretation of who you are because, most of the time when I interview people, they'll stick to like, oh, my family's from Mexico or, Guanajuato, and we're born and raised there, and that's the core of their identity, which, for me too, I'm Mexican from Aguascalientes, right? So both of
Nice.
my parents are from Aguascalientes. Like I go to Mexico like maybe 3, 4 times a year myself because I love it.
Nice.
And I also try to, do some home office as how they call it in Mexico, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My cousin is so my cousin and his wife, they both work at Nissan in Aguascalientes. They're both engineers,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do
Nice.
home office today," and they're like, "You should just come work with us." And I was like, "Okay," because
Yeah.
just like them, I can work from anywhere as long as I have a laptop, internet connection. I can meet clients. I have clients all over California, but also in the like Texas, New York, Massachusetts. So they're spread,
Yeah, of
right? So
course.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
beauty of being able to work from anywhere and anywhere in the world. I love that because it has allowed you to travel and to, still continue with your career.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. The benefit of currently, like, it's just, as you said, like laptop and Wi-Fi, and that's it. That's the only thing that you need. Yes, it's definitely something that it's super useful now. It's a super well connected global entrepreneurship and business.
Yeah, yeah. So this next question for you. For a listener hearing about Jeeves today, or how do you say that? Jeeves? Jeeves?
Yeah, that's a good point, Jeeves. Yeah. That's a
Jeeves,
good point.
okay.
Yeah, Jeeves.
Jeeves. So today for the first time, what is Jeeves and what do you do for them?
That's a really good question. Jeeves is a corporate expense management platform that facilitates credit and cards and expense management to companies within more than 24 countries. Okay, I'm lucky enough to be part of the sales team. I was there when we were only 5 people. And we grew very fast. We currently operate in 25 countries. And the interesting part is that we reached 40 million in sales in about 3 years. So that was very quick, very fast, and we raised Series A, Series B, and Series C extremely fast as well, like 2.1 billion valuation. So that's what's Jeeves, and the benefit of this platform is how can we help more companies and platforms access financing and corporate credit cards for the day-to-day operations. Yeah.
Okay, so this is for the management suite then, really, right? To be able to manage
That's
expenses. And
exactly.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's correct, Randy. Yeah.
Awesome. And I like that because well, actually, I just read an article on the Harvard Business Review magazine that AI is taking over some of like the management task of,
Yes.
I don't know if you call them mundane task or like mentoring task, because a lot of like associate level individuals can't find the answers that they're looking for with AI. So, I mean, we could talk more about that later, right? But and AI is all the talk right now, so that's why I'm like that makes me think about that, right? Because
Yeah, no,
I
total
feel like
sense.
managers do a lot of tasks, and even like CEOs do tasks that they're not supposed to be doing, right? And for the small business, obviously, that's kind of hard sometimes because you're running a small business and you're either a startup or there's a lot of hats to wear. But okay, so tell me what company or what type of company would benefit from the cards that you guys sell or
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we serve a big realm of different companies. We usually work with SMB companies or like medium-sized companies that they have a financial team, no, that they have this need to access corporate credit cards, expense management, facilitate and understand where the expenses are going, marketing expenses, travel expenses, operational expenses, and that's where the benefit comes in, right? But something also that's also very interesting is like I was very lucky enough at the beginning, like to join this company.
yeah.
And I've also been very lucky that I've been able to support and assess and advise like a lot of companies in like more than 125 companies to help
Wow.
them increase sales, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that's also my passion. It's part of my passion as well. So that's something that I really like to share in general.
Okay. So, I mean, that kind of feeds right pretty good into the next question. Let's move into your startup growth, the $1 million question, right? How can you start
Yeah.
to next your growth without additional funding if you're a small business?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and this is where I call it in Spanish mi mero mole. That's a very Mexican explanation,
Yeah.
and I love it, because of course something that I love to share is like sales and revenue. It's a science and an art, right? What does this mean? It's like there's a science in it, like it's numbers, right? In a very big part of it, but it's also an art. What it means like there's so many ways, so many subjective opinions, and so many methodologies, frameworks, and so on. So I'm just gonna share the one that worked for me, because there's a
Yeah. Go
million
for it.
ways on how to increase revenue and so on. And I have a very clear framework that helps a lot of companies. I have companies that they grew like 30% in 2 months. I have companies that grew 70% in 3 months. Companies that grew 800% as well in a couple of months. I did an exit and selling $180,000 in just about 6 months. So let me share the framework. First of all, it's number one, right, from the playbook of my playbook. The thing was like, we have to increase what I call the revenue generating activities.
Okay.
What does this mean? It's extremely simple. When I talk to sales team, the main problem is that they don't actually know that we need to measure inputs rather than outputs. What does this mean? When you go with a sales team, you go and say like, hey, you have to sell $10,000. The problem is that it's not 100%. The account executive, the salesperson, the sales rep is not 100% responsible of the outcome, but they're 100% responsible of the activities or the inputs that they put, right? So the first thing is like we need to increase revenue generating activities. What are the three revenue generating activities in the simplest terms? Is you have to increase the number of quality emails, to prospect, right? To get more leads.
Okay. Yeah.
Number two is quality calls, because if you don't pick up the phone, it's going to be hard to get a call. Of course, this can be changed with inbound and so on, but this is in general, right?
Okay.
And the third one is increase quality meetings. Why these three? Because you cannot have a sale if you don't have a proposal, let's say, and if you don't have a proposal, if you don't have a meeting with one client, it's going to be impossible to close a sale. So that will be like, let's say, like the step number one.
Yes.
Then step number two is how can we make sure that how can we focus on the thing that I believe is number two, it's optimization. Okay, optimization, like I call it revenue optimization. It's a fancy word to try to understand and see where are the small, within the sales funnel, where are the small stages that you can increase the conversion on each. What does this mean? Let's say that you are calling, but only one of those respond, right? So you're listening 99% of the people actually can reach. How can we increase the number of calls that we do and the number of calls that they respond? So maybe we need to have better phone numbers and so on. So it's how can we improve the conversion rate in each stage of the sales process. That will be step number two. Step number three is something that I call training, and step number three simplest and only ways in my perspective to increase sales. Everyone knows this. One, increase the number of clients. Two, increase the average ticket size. And three, increase the frequency of purchase. Okay?
Per buyer. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, that's correct. Exactly. And at the end, like the fourth step on my playbook, on my framework, is training and coaching. Why? Because if you tell the team how to do things, but you tell the team what to do, but you don't teach them how to do things, it's going to be a problem. Let's say you are a sales manager. Let's say you're a business owner and you tell your team like, hey, we need to get, I don't know, $50,000 on sales this quarter. And you tell them you should prospect. They have no idea how to prospect. Right. So you need to be extremely granular. You have to go very in depth to explain them what does prospecting means. It means A, B, C, and D. How do you do A? You have to do X, Y, and Z. So you have to be extremely granular on explaining how things should be done. Right. So I just shared like a lot of information.
I know. I'm like, I have a quick
follow-up. Yeah. It's a lot of it's a lot of information. But just to reply to repeat it. All right. It's like one is increase the number of revenue generating activities.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, it's a commercial optimization or sales optimization. Okay. Number three is commercial focus, right? And number four is sales and sales training and coaching.
Okay. So a couple of follow-up questions, because like if I'm a small business owner, I'm listening to the podcast. I want to say you work at Jeeves and you guys, but you also mentor and small businesses to increase their revenues. Do you only work with clients from Jeeves or do you work with individuals?
That's a really, really good question. So this is something that I do as a side help, like as a mentoring, as a assessment, and that's something totally different. Yes, that's something that's totally different.
But
yes, it's totally
just
different.
Make the connections for the listeners. You learned a lot of your knowledge and information and your expertise from working with all these businesses at Jeeves.
Correct.
So that's how that all connects. And I just wanted to make the connection. Yeah. I just wanted to
that's a really good point. Yeah, okay. That's a really good point. I jumped that part.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, so your playbook, the playbook that you use, which I'm guessing maybe in the future, maybe you'll write a book about that, right?
Hopefully, that would be great. Yeah, that would be
that's
awesome.
That's a great playbook, And I mean, obviously right now we're just doing like a macro overview of everything, but if someone wants to work with you, then they would reach out to you and then you can assess their company and then you can go through these steps with them. But
that's great. Yeah.
I had one more question about revenue optimization. Yeah, I wrote these down because here's the thing. There's other podcasts that I listen to that are also business podcasts, and they mention that as well. A lot of people try a lot of things, like they throw wet balls against the wall and they try to like see which one sticks, right? Like just all these tactics. But number one thing they all recommend is sticking to the tactics that actually work, right? Doing more of what actually works, because I feel like there's so much information nowadays. There's so many podcasts. There's a bunch of books. There's a bunch of people you could be advised from. And everyone has a different way of seeing things and everyone has a different perspective or experience, right? I think that some things that work for the service-based industry might not work for like a product-based industry as well, because I see that play out a lot in my field, right? Because I advise both like manufacturers and service-based individuals in my tax practice. But How would you, what was the question I was going to say here? So, how would you, I guess, apply this to one service-based industry or like a product manufacturer? Or is this specifically just for
Okay, got it.
one or the other?
That's
Yeah.
a that's a really, really, really good question, Randy. So I've been lucky enough that I've mentored and helped, more than 120 companies,
Yeah.
right? More or less about 20 industries. Of course, this is not one fits all, right? But they're always the basics, right? The basics is they're extremely simple. In my experience, these basics work for any industry, okay? And it usually works for small to medium companies. What does this mean? Like if you're a very big corporation, like Salesforce or Microsoft or this type of companies, of course it will not work. They already find the format, right? But in my experience, talking to this amount of people, is that most of the teams don't actually do the things that they have to do. There's a very interesting fact, Randy, that according to Salesforce, salespeople spend only 28% of the time selling. I'm going to repeat that.
Wow.
According to Salesforce, salespeople only spend about 20% of their time selling. What does that mean? Like the other 70 plus time, they're losing their time and it's something that has nothing to do with sales, right? So
Interesting.
that's something extremely interesting
Yeah.
because that's a reflection on how you're starting to measure the input of the team. Because usually, like salespeople, we are very, at least in Latin America, I know in the US this is very, very structured, but in Latin America, we tend to be very informal and we tend to be very like, okay, I'm just going to convince you because I like you, and like this type of
Yeah.
persuasion and these type of things. But it's actually very, very important that we focus the team, right, towards what is the most important thing. And for a sales team, everything's measured and all the objectives are going to be measured, are going to be achieved based on the quantity of meetings that you have. For example, let's say I was working with an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I need to increase sales, okay? And it was a small company, and they were doing 6 meetings a month,
Okay.
6 meetings with clients a month. I was like, okay, so that's the first thing that we need to fix, right? We need to get more meetings, but I don't know how to do it. I don't have to do it. Like just prospect. It's like I don't know how to do it. So that's why I came with a very granular and very specific way of how to do it. And it was at the end of the first month, he had 36.
Yikes! Yeah, that freaks me out. As a business owner, I like I told you, my bread and butter, my 9 to 5 is
Yeah.
taxes, right? So I have to do taxes. I have to meet with clients, and like when you jump from meeting 6 individuals in 1 month to 30, I can see any entrepreneur go like, Jesus Christ, their brain just freaks out. Well, yeah, tell me, how did that work out for that business owner? How did you like, I guess, coach them through
Yeah.
those 30 new calls?
That's a great point. Like I'm extremely happy because of that they closed their biggest client ever. And it was like 10 times more the average ticket size that they used to work. And I was extremely proud for them because they just took action, right? And it's usually the simple activities because of course I have playbooks and frameworks for everything, right? Because I know they work when you replicate it and you actually take action. So it was a very simple way how to create prospects and leads. And this was the simplest, most efficient, no cost added way of doing it. It's called people that you know, right? Personally and one on one. Okay.
Okay.
So this means like everyone in the world has hundreds of contacts on WhatsApp, hundreds of contacts on messages, hundreds of contacts on their phone, hundreds of contacts on Facebook, hundreds of contacts on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, I'd say Reddit, X, like all of this. So I told him, what if you just contact these people and ask for a recommendation? It's like, no, it's not gonna work. It's like, trust me. What's the worst case scenario? They just don't respond. So step number one is create a list of all the contacts that you have in all your different, let's call it databases.
Yeah.
Okay. Step number one. Step number two, send them a message to connect as a human with them, okay? Because most people get this wrong, like, hey, I sell this, and everyone hates that. When your high school friend tells you, like, hey, I'm like selling, like, I don't know, like something that you haven't talked to that person in 6 years, like, what are you doing trying to sell? The second thing is, like, talk to them as a human and ask them about something that they relate to. Something that they relate to is just like, hey, like, I saw that you just had a kid. I just saw that, like, something. And then you ask them, how come are you such a great mom? Whatever, you compliment them. And then you ask this question, this is a framework. I help small to medium SMBs owners to increase revenue without burning capital. Do you know any business owner that needs to increase sales? So the interesting part about this is that you're not selling directly to that person. You're just asking if they know someone.
A recommendation.
That's the beauty and the magic of it, right? What does this mean? Like maybe out of your 2,000 contacts, maybe 50 of them are business owners, or maybe 10. But those 10 are going to respond like, hey, I want to increase sales. Hey, I want to increase X amount. Or if the other ones that they're not a business owner, they will recommend you someone.
Yeah,
But you need to do follow.
So this kind of reminds me of a couple of things. And let me tell you what came up to mind when you were mentioning that process of asking for referral, because like we recently started doing it in our firm where we're asking other business owners for referrals of like their business friends. And we've gotten a few referrals from that. And it's interesting because they're higher quality referrals than those we've gotten. To the other thing I thought of, LinkedIn prospecting, because like people have done that to me where they send me an email and they're like, hey, I noticed this and so what on your profile, and you're like a great accountant or something like that, you know. But when I instantly thought about, and I usually reject LinkedIn, like referrals or stuff like that. And part of me, and the reason I say that is because my mentor from a couple years ago, she was like, yeah, you can start prospecting on LinkedIn. And I told her, no, I'm not okay with that. One, because I don't know these people. Two, I don't know if it's because I'm Mexican, but I need to warm up to these people. And I've never seen them in person. And I don't know who they are, and what they're trying to sell for me. And at the end of the day, the only thing that comes to mind when I see an email come through like that from LinkedIn is like, okay, what kind of sale do they want to get from me, right? Like, I don't think it's genuine. Whereas like, you know, if I go to Mexico and my cousin introduces me to their friend and we're just talking, and there's no sales pitch ever going on, but then 5-10 minutes later, we're recommending to each other like, hey, you should go to this chiropractor here in Aguascalientes because your back hurts, right? I don't know, like we were just talking about that. But that feels so much more welcoming and so much more genuine to me. But then right now, when you were mentioning it, it kind of clicked to me in my head. That is what you guys are trying to mimic on social media, on LinkedIn, on these cold calls. Because if you're not in front of that person, how do you like get them to start warming up to you? And especially in a culture like us, like, you know, I don't know if it's because in America, especially right now with the culture and everything that's going on with our president and the way the environment is, I'm so skeptical. I'm so like, I don't approach anyone with the mindset of like, oh, they're good people. Like, I'm always worried. I'm always like, I don't know who that is, and why is this person turning around saying hi to me? But also it's like of my own protection, right? Like just to feel safe myself. But yeah, sorry, that totally just clicked to me after hearing that process for like the last, I don't know, like 6-7 years of my life.
Yeah.
Right? And the reason I say that is because, you know, you have to prospect. Like, I think, you know, ever since I went on my own as well, I haven't stopped prospecting clients, right? Like, that's why I build my book of business. And I feel like, you know, I get the best referrals are the recommendations from current clients, but also, and those are the ones that last. Those are the clients who are like, hey, like, we've been with Randy now for like 2-3 years and we love what he does. And like, for me, I think that's really hard to mimic, but I see the process now with what you mentioned. But then, you know, I guess to me, the number one thing is like, why would that not work for like a small business? Or how does someone, you know, move over to making it work for them? Like, have you ever seen a case where like maybe that doesn't work to the percentage that you guys wanted to work? Like, you know, like instead of getting like moving from 6 interviews a month or prospecting calls a month to 30, is the number lower? Yeah, you tell me. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a really good question, Randy. I think it totally depends on the industry, totally depends on the client that you want to serve, totally depends on the person that you want to serve. So I always work with something that's extremely important, and any sales strategy that I work is like the first thing, and the most important thing is number one, who's your ideal client, right? So everyone talks about the ideal client. It's like, who's the company, okay, who's the company that you're going to serve? Number one. And number two is who in the company I'm going to serve, right? So it's the client, the ideal client, and then you have like the buyer persona, some people call it the decision maker, and so on. Okay, it's like the person who's going to help you decide to pick up this. So what does this mean is that that's the first step. Okay. Second step is you ask yourself, how do they communicate, and what are the purchasing channels? Okay. And I'm gonna answer your question now.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. No.
And the third question is, where do they conglomerate?
Okay.
Okay.
Where can you find these people?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fourth question is, who or which company or which organization or which et cetera, has already these clients, right? Because the main problem is people do not know who they want to serve. Let's say you are, I don't know, a consultancy firm. There's trillions, right? But you say yeah, I can help anyone. So that's the problem. When you say you can help anyone, you're not targeting your efforts towards that person. So let's say you want to help, I don't know, startups, right? And you're going to sell to their technological lead and you put Facebook ads. It doesn't match because the tech leader in a startup is never going to be on Facebook. Maybe they're in Reddit, maybe they're in Slack, maybe they're in X, right? So that's why exactly. So that's why it's extremely important to do that. So what does that mean? Is if you're going to prospect on LinkedIn, but your ideal customer or your profile or your buyer persona is not on LinkedIn, it's never going to work. For example, I was helping one company there in the agro industry, right? So they work with campesinos, farmers, right? So he was doing prospecting he was posting on Facebook. It's it doesn't match. You have to understand, where do they conglomerate? What's their purchasing channel? And most probably the purchasing channel is in person. So you have to be with the organization, with the leader of the organization, and create that connection, create the channel, and understand where do they conglomerate, right? So I think that's the most important thing that most business owners lack. The extremely clear ideal client that they want to get in their business.
Yeah, and I guess just to summarize that a little bit, so understanding where your client is very important for marketing purposes and finding them, because there's so many social media channels. Mm-hmm. You got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X. There's a bunch of other socials that I'm not even mentioning here, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's even Patreon. People pay to be subscribers to someone they follow, right? So
yeah.
It's this advice you're just giving right now is really, really important to me that you said it. So thank you for saying that, because I feel with so many channels now, you don't know where to start. And it could be paralyzing for a small business to be well, where do we go? Do we start a podcast? Because you hear that, start a podcast, right? I'll be 100% honest. For me, when I started my podcast, it did help me acquire new business owners because it was a marketing strategy. It was free. Mm-hmm. But it took a lot of work. A lot of work. Now I'm too busy, so it worked. But maybe a podcast for a product-based business, or I don't know, a toy, for example, is not going to be the best line of marketing to pursue. And I think that's important, because not that many individuals, what if I'm a gym? What if I'm an office building that houses other businesses as well, right? And I think that you hit the mark right there, where you're you need to first know who your ideal client is and where they hang out. But yeah, so I like that. Thank you. But so in this world where we work with so many different types of businesses, what's the number one growth tactic that is universally underrated as a business?
Referrals. By far. Referrals by far. 100%. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
There's a McKinsey study in 2020 that they say 68% of your clients will refer you new clients if you remind them.
68%, Jesus, that's so high. I mean, out of 100%, that's great. Yeah, imagine if you just got one referral from each person.
Exactly. So that's something that's extremely important, because it's just reminding them. And there's another interesting fact. I don't remember the exact number, but it was about 70% of your clients that are happy, of course, are open to refer you. And everyone says okay, everyone's word of mouth. They recommend me, recommendations. But no one that I see actually proactively pushes referrals. I have a playbook with 20 referral tactics. Something as simple as every month, in a very subtle and smart way, you ask for referrals. I'm going to give you one simple tactic and script that always help. Hey, Randy, how are you doing with your business? What's your experience with my business? Like, okay, great. That's really awesome. Honestly, number one, you appraise that client. We really appreciate having you as a client. We would love to have more clients like you because A, B, and C. You have to always give a reason. Number two, like we're currently trying to increase and get the product better so you can benefit for this. This means that we don't want to spend on marketing. We want to spend on the product so you benefit more. Okay. By any chance, do you know someone? And this someone is like, do you know someone that, and you describe your buyer persona. Do you by any chance, Randy, know a early stage B2B SaaS founder that wants to increase revenue without burning capital? Usually, my other clients refer me between 3 to 5 people. So, it's a lot. So it's a lot, but it's in a conversation, of course. But the interesting part is like, it's a framework. It's proven. I didn't invent it. It was a guy that they call the $40 billion guy. The person who invented this 40 years ago, it's called J. Abraham, right? So I just copied from him. So the interesting part is like, there's a reason for everything, right? But the thing that I like is that usually people refer me between 3 to 5 people. By nature, it's like, everyone refers you 3 to 5. I'm going to refer you at least 2, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm over here hoping one referral per person, but 3 or 5 is amazing, right?
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you know the psychology behind that, but like, what do people feel when they refer? Like, that's what I would want to know, right? Like, I would want to know, like, okay, what is it like? A feeling of adrenaline, a feeling of a feel good just moment, because wow. So I'll be 100% honest, but in undergrad, my major was sociology.
Wow, nice.
I didn't switch
That's
over
so
to
cool.
business into my master's. So, like,
Nice.
I'm always really interested on how people socially interact with each other.
Nice.
And that's a little bit, and some topics go into psychology as well, but not too much. But to me, that's a super social, interactive moment where, like, this person now is gonna take time out of their busy day in the future, or like in the next day or two, or whenever they remember, to talk to this person about you, their accountant, or you, their coaching advisor, right? So, like, that's time. That's time that nobody has. Like, nobody has that time. So if someone's referring 3 or 5 people to you, that's amazing. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, that is like, it's okay. So the number one tactic that is underrated and is super incredibly effective is referrals.
100%. Eyes
Okay.
closed.
And
Yeah.
and let me ask you this question. So in 2 different markets, like 2 different geographies, right? The US and Latin America, like, is this approached differently, or how is there any nuances between the two? Like, in the US market versus the Latin American market? Like, is it something that people approach differently, or what have you seen with your experience?
That's a really good question that I never asked myself, but that's why I love to do this like live podcast so I can get some information. In my experience working in the US and working in Mexico, I think this my perspective in the US could be seen as more transactional, right? And there's 2 reasons why someone could potentially refer you, right? Of course, like it is like what's an extrinsic motivation or an intrinsic motivation. An extrinsic motivation is something as simple as you get a benefit from a bonus, a referral bonus, whatever, like a fee, a commission, and so on. And that seems to be more efficient in the US market, okay? And when it's compared to Mexico, it seems like Latin America, it seems like it's more, I'm assuming, because I don't have specific data and research on that, it's more intrinsic. Because as you say, like your cousin in Aguascalientes referring you a chiropractic because he had a great experience, so he just wants to show off that he has a great person that's helping him. So I think those are the main reason. Like in the US market is like more extrinsic and more like transactional, right? And in Latin America it seems to be more intrinsic and more like relationship. Right. So I think that's a big differentiator that I've noticed. There's no strong data again. It's just my perception and assumption. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
pretty cool.
definitely. And that's all we can go based off of your own experience. Like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, studies take a really long time to produce, and we're not the ones doing studies. But thank you for that.
Of course.
So my next question is, many entrepreneurs feel overwhelmed. If you could only track 3 metrics in growing your business, which would you choose and why?
It's a great question. Okay, the one that's obvious that I'm gonna remove it's revenue, right?
Okay.
But it's the most important one in my perspective. If you don't have revenue, you have such a a very, very expensive hobby. Okay, right? So number one, 100% is revenue. The more you track it and the more often you track it, the easier it gets to improve it. If you track revenue once a year, you're screwed. If you track it 12 times a year, monthly, or you track it every day or every week, you have less chances of not achieving your goal. So number one, of course, in my perspective, I'm biased and so on, is revenue. Number two, it's operational cash flow. I mean, you're an accountant, you know better than this. If you run out of cash flow, you have $1 trillion in sales, but your cash flow is not efficient. I think that's going to be something extremely hard. And the third one, I think it will be something like net promoter score, right? Like how much a person is eager to promote and recommend your product or service.
Okay. How do you track? So I have a couple follow-up questions, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The first one is, we'll come back to Net Promoter Score because I think that, not a new term, but I think not that many people use it. Revenue. So how often are you tracking revenue? Is it quarterly, monthly, weekly? Every other month? What do you think is something that is working for the businesses that you work with?
That's a great question. I think it depends on two things. On the sales cycle. Sales cycle is how long it takes for you to close a business. Because if you're selling to government, your sales cycle could be 2-3 years, right? But if you're selling like $9, it could be sold in 3 days, right? So I think that's the first variable. And the second variable is the average ticket size. If the average ticket size is $9, it should be measured every day. If your average ticket size is $10 million, maybe it should be tracked every year, right? So I think that's the first variable. The second variable that is important to measure, again, it's the inputs, right? Like how many meetings, how many calls, how many emails, all quality email, quality call, quality meeting, call, and email, right? Yeah. So that should be tracked every single day. Because there's let's say it's called cadence, right? Let's say it's backwards planning. Long story short, you need 20 quality meetings a month, right? To achieve that. So that means you need to have 5 meetings a week. That means 1 a day. So you track that every single day. Because if you track it at the end of the month, maybe you have 10 and you're back. So you need to track the activity rather than the outcome, right? So gotcha. I think those are the two differences between one and the other one, because you can definitely control the input, but not necessarily the output.
Not the output, yeah. Yeah, all you have control over really is the input, because the output would come from whether that individual is going to actually work with you or not, right? So, no, I get that, totally get that. And then the Net Promoter Score, if you could explain a little bit in detail or define it, what that means, and how do you get that score from your current clients? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Net Promoter Score, I think, again, it's for me, it's the simplest way. It's how from 1 to 10, how much could a person recommend you? The simple question from 1 to 10, okay. 1 being I hate you, 10 I love you. Which number would it be? So anything that is above 8, anything that's about 9 and 10 is someone that will actively promote you. I think the other ones between 7 and 8, it's just neutral. And the ones 6 below, they're detractors. Detractors are people that will talk very bad about you.
Wait, I missed that. I'm sorry. Below 7 or below 6?
I think I do not know exactly, but it could be below 6, right? Because it's people that are negatively impacted. Yeah, it could be 6, it could be 7. I don't remember, to be honest. So that's very important, because the more people that you have that are happy with your product, that are willing to promote your product, that means you can ask them for referrals, you can do cross-selling, you can do upselling, right? You can do an add-on, you can do a bonus, So you start creating this, because usually it takes if you have a client that stays with you with months or years because you're happy and you deliver the product, that's going to add a lot of value. But if you have a client that is not happy with the product and the service, right, you're just going to stay stagnant in the same revenue line.
No, thank you. Thank you for doing that. And then getting this score, we get it from a survey, serving our clients or just word of mouth, or how does that score?
Just send them a survey from 1 to 10. Would you recommend to another friend?
Okay, so now that makes so much more sense, because every time I have softwares that I use, or QuickBooks, or my tax software and stuff like that, every time I hang up the call, they're like, would you recommend this to your family member? Or would you recommend this to friends and family? I think that's one of the questions I get. And I'm always like, yeah, whatever, 10. And I like hang up. But I guess they're really trying to track like what individuals that already own the software would make the actual recommendation to somebody else.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, cool. So what's my next question for you? What mind shift did you have to make personally in order to help others grow their business more effectively? And then how did you get into these mentoring startups? Because you're part of a few of them.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, I mentor in the top accelerators in Latin America. I was invited by some of the people that I mentor. It's like, you should work with all of the accelerators. So I was very lucky to get invited into those. That's number one. Number two, I think the main mind shift was, it's not about me, it's about them.
Okay.
Right? It's how can you help them with what they need, not with what you sell. In simpler words, fall in love with their problem, don't fall in love with your solution. I'll give you an example. When I started helping or mentoring people like a few years ago, I just did I did a slide and I just presented for 1 hour, just me talking. And when I go backwards, I was trying to give my solution, not what they needed, right? So I just changed my shift. So now I teach clients extremely granular how to write the subject line of a prospecting email. I go that deep, right? What should be the first 15 seconds of a cold call? I give them scripts, I give them the tactics, and I also give them the strategies to increase sales. So I think that was a very big mind shift. When I started, of course, it was just like very informal and just like trying to help people. I think that's the biggest mind shift that I had. It's not about my solution, it's about how can I help them? How can I serve them to fix their problems, not offer my solution. So I think that's the main mind shift that changed.
That's a big one. You know why? Because everyone wants to like sell their products or come in and say, I'm the expert, you need to listen to me, right? Yeah. Remember I just told you I just got back on the podcast movement.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to say that maybe in like 3 or 4 different talks that I listened to, this topic came up. Like they're like, put yourselves in the shoes of your listener. Put yourself in the shoes of your audience. Like, what is your audience here to listen to? What value are you providing them? How are you going to help them solve their issue? Whether, and one of them was like a comedy podcast, I think. And I was like, well, they want to laugh because they're not currently laughing in their daily lives. So they come to us once a week so that we can make them laugh in the 1 hour podcast. And they have a great time.
That's pretty cool.
So, and so actually, it might seem like a very simple question, but I think it's very important because I think so much and so often I see entrepreneurs just chasing like the next dollar, right? With all due respect, you need that next dollar so your company is an ongoing concern and that it doesn't fail and all that. But at the end of the day, that really takes away the human aspect of things, right? Like, so if, I don't know, for example, if you're a gym owner or if you're in the people business, like you want to keep making those connections, and yes, you want to get that next person to sign up for your subscription or for your gym and stuff, but if you're focused on just getting the next dollar, then you're not focused on really bringing in a new community member, right? That could potentially help the rest of your community with knowledge or information and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what that reminds me of, but I do think this is a really important question, and I know sorry if I made you think a little bit, but I appreciate your answer.
I love it. No, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so tell me about these mentoring startup groups. I think the one that I saw on one of your other podcasts you did is the 500 Latam. Like, can you talk a little bit about that one and how that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Like, as I said, like I was approached by a very, very, very small startup. Like they were like not known at the beginning. I always talk really good about him. Andres, he's the founder of Alitech, right? Then he told me like, we want to work with you. It was just like 5 people doing amazing stuff, just like hustling and working. Yeah. So back then I just like, okay, I would love to help. And we started like, we help. I guided their sales team and so on. And they sold the company. They did an exit. So that was amazing. So that was really, really cool. Like, wow, this is amazing. I could give my granito de arena, I don't say it like in English, I don't know how to say it. But that felt great, and he recommended me like, hey, more people should know about this. So he recommended me, to speak with 500 Latam. So 500 Latam is an accelerator program and also an investors program. It's top notch in Latin America. It's really really good. And so yeah, I've been mentoring there for a couple of years. So every one of them, I just keep mentoring. I just give webinars, I give workshops, I give master classes, and so on. And they have a great community as well. And talking about communities as well, I mean, I launched a community. It's called Crece 10X in Spanish, like Grow 10X. And in 1 month, we had 1,000 members, 1,000 members on WhatsApp. That was crazy. Like, so cool. So many people want to learn how to grow their business revenue. Then I created one for business owners and CEOs and founders. 220 people are there. So it's something that is really cool because, again, it's like, how can I give the most value to the people that are hearing? And I think that's what accelerators and mentoring programs do. Like, how can we add value? How can we help? Because at the end, the Latino community is very stretched, but at the same time, we could be very tight, right? When you see a business owner is Latino, like, hey, I want you to succeed, right? So you support each other and so on. So I think as Latinos, I think as people that we don't necessarily come from the easiest, beginnings, right? We need to support each other, and we need to support each other to grow, to help each other, to promote each other businesses, and the region needs it, right?
Oh yeah, no, and thanks for sharing that. 'Cause, I feel like, we were talking about this a little bit earlier too, but and I've said it countless of times here on the podcast. The reason I started my podcast here is because I didn't feel like I had mentors that I could really turn to and say, like, how do I start a business? Or I have this idea, what do you think about it, right? Because, here in the US, a lot of Latinos, like, they're hard laborers. They work the hard jobs, right? And they do really well for themselves. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I work with Latinos who have now been here in the US for maybe 30, 40 years. Great lifestyle, great income. They're making over 6 figures. They have rentals. So imagine you come from Mexico and you're like, I have nothing. You show up to the US without a job and no money. And like 30, 40 years later, you're able to build this lifestyle that's really great, not only for yourself, but for your children as well. Yeah. Your kids are now going off to college and now they're becoming professionals. But you see how there's a gap, right? There's that, like, so the new generation that's going to college, they don't have the mentors that are these professionals. So to me, I think these groups are really important. And that was one of the reasons why I started, like, the podcast.
That's amazing.
Like, this information needs to go out. It needs to be free. It needs to be out there. But yeah, I mean, one last question, because I know we're running out of time here. So I'm trying to.
Love it. Yeah.
But let's see. Okay, if one of the listeners, right, they're listening right now, if there's just one thing they did differently this week based on our conversation today, what would you recommend for them to do different in their business?
Start tracking quality calls, quality emails, and quality meetings. That's the first thing they have to do. In my perspective, it's the simplest, most effective input activity that you can do, because you'll notice that your team is not doing what they're telling you. Maybe they're sending 5 emails a day. Maybe they're doing 1 call a day. That's why they don't have meetings. So that's the simplest, easiest way. Yeah, I think that will be the simplest. Yeah, super simple.
Okay, yeah, super simple, but it's basics, and it's what people need to go back to, especially in this world where things are so busy. So thank you, Andres, for your time. That was my last question.
Love it.
It's been a joy to have you on the show, and all I can say is thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Randy. I really, really appreciated having this conversation with you. Have a lovely day, and happy to be here. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with your network. Your support helps our Latinx business community grow stronger with every listen, and I truly invite you to connect with us. Send us your questions, your comments, or even your own business stories to randy@rgtaxes.com. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep learning, keep building your business, and keep growing your business mindset.